In this episode, we talk about technologies developed for space missions that have the potential to alter our daily lives. We also talk about the Supreme Court hearing in the Ranveer Allahbadia case. But first, we talk about Canada's biggest gold heist. Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Back in April 2023, Canadians woke up to the news that 6,600 gold bars, weighing a total of 400 kgs, had been stolen from the Pearson International Airport.
The massive gold heist at Canada's biggest airport, authorities releasing new details as they try to track down leads after the precious cargo worth millions simply vanished.
Police say after a plane landed in Toronto Monday, cargo was moved to a holding facility before someone took off with a high-value container.
This story is a sensational one, and one which probably, we jokingly say, belongs in a Netflix series or something greater than that. And so you will see.
Now, after investigating the case, the police discovered that one of the key figures behind the heist was a man named Simran Preet Panesar. This 32-year-old former Air Canada manager was living in Brampton, Ontario at the time of the theft. However, the police were unable to apprehend him as he fled the country shortly after the heist, and his exact location remained unknown. Now, after more than 1 month of investigation, the Indian Express, in collaboration with CBC News, the Fifth Estate Canada, has finally tracked down Panesar. As it turns out, Panesar has been living in the outskirts of Punjab's capital.
So currently, Simran Preet Panesar, he's living on the outskirts of Chandigarh, and he's managing his family and wife, Preeti Panesar, who's an aspiring actor and singer and a former Miss India Uganda.
That's the Indian Express's Varinder Bhatia, who led the investigation for the paper.
And he's leading a normal life. He's living with his family in a rented accommodation. While back there in Canada, his legal team is contesting his case. And Panesar hopes that eventually he'll come out clean.
So to know about him and the heist, my colleague Shashank Bhargava spoke to Varinder.
Varinder, for those who might be hearing about this heist for the first time, can you tell us how exactly it took place?
See, while the investigation is still going on, the Canadian authorities, they have still not concluded their investigation. It dates back to April 2023, when 6,600 gold bars, weighing approximately 400 kg of pure gold, and about $2.5 million worth in various foreign currencies, they were stolen from Pearson International Airport's cargo compound shortly after it arrived on a flight from Zurich. The investigating officials, they believe that a significant portion of this gold left for foreign markets very soon after the heist. And a large portion was believed to have gone overseas, either in Dubai or India. And apparently, these guys, because they were the insiders, they used some duplicate airway bill through which they moved this gold consignment out of the airport with the help of the other alleged accomplices.
Yeah, and you mentioned how Simran Preet Panesar was an insider working at the airport, and he in fact had also given a tour of the cargo facility to the police, and back then the police had suspected him.
Yes, that time because of his behavior, like the documents that we accessed, the investigation and all. In one of the places, the investigating officers have even written that he was sweating and his behavior was not normal. So his behavior was initially suspicious, but that was too early stage for them to pin him down. So apparently he stayed there in Canada for a couple of months, even after the heist, and then moved out of there, and now he's here in India.
And Varinder, now talk about your investigation, because that is what eventually led you to track down Panesar.
It was a collaborative effort between the CBC News, the Fifth Estate Canada, and the Express. And our part was to track him down, this Panesar, because he was believed to be in India. So as part of the collaboration, both the organizations, we used our resources to track him down. And then we even approached him with the questions regarding his alleged involvement in the case. And it took us quite a long time to track him down. In fact, the CBC News, they were working on this entire case for several months now before we eventually started tracking Panesar. And finally, we managed to reach out to him.
And what did he say when you questioned him about the case?
He spoke a few things, but that was, of course, off the record. But on record, that it was only this much that he couldn't reveal much on camera because of his family's safety and legal reasons. So we did send him the questionnaire, detailed set of questions. So we are still waiting for him to get back to us, replying on those questions.
And also, just out of curiosity, is he living a sort of lavish life here?
He's living a normal life. I won't call it very lavish. He's living a normal life in a rented accommodation. Yeah.
And Varinder, considering how big this case is, could you talk about the attempts that have been made by the Canadian authorities to nab him?
They have their own legal procedures, and their investigation is yet not concluded. It is still continuing, as the investigating officials told us. Out of the total 9 suspects who were originally traced by the investigating officers, identified by the investigating officers, 5 were arrested in Canada, and they are currently out on bail. And the 6th suspect was arrested in United States of America. And Canada-wide warrants were issued against 2, including Simran Preet Panesar, and the legal proceedings are still going on there in Canada. And another suspect, Arsalan Chaudhary, who is also suspected to be one of the most important players in this entire group, is yet to be arrested. And the investigating officers, they believe that he could be in Dubai, but he's yet to be arrested in this case.
And the other thing to keep in mind, I suppose, is that India and Canada do have extradition treaties, but the legal proceedings of this case are still going on in Canada. So it is only after they are done that something might happen?
Yeah, maybe before that also, but a lot will depend on the ongoing investigation in Canada. We have learned that his next date of hearing in his case is also scheduled for March 10th, and we see how it goes from there.
And also, Varinder, out of all the things that were robbed, how much has the police managed to recover?
They have not been able to recover much. They have been able to recover some portion of the stolen gold that was allegedly melted at one of the places there. And they recovered a few bangles-like ornaments, gold bangles-like ornaments, which they believe were made after the stolen gold was melted. They had recovered some foreign currency also that was stolen. But frankly, the recovery is not that much. It's very minimal as compared to the actual theft.
And could you also talk about the other suspects in the case and how they were involved in this heist?
So there are a total of 9 suspects who were originally suspected to be involved in this case. The investigating officials believe that Simran Preet Panesar and Parampal Sidhu, who both worked at Air Canada at that time and allegedly facilitated this theft to take place, because both of them were insiders. And these are the 2 who were the only insiders. A Canadian national, Durante King McLean, who was the driver of the truck in which the gold was allegedly transported out of the Pearson International Airport. Archit Grover is another suspect. He's a longtime friend of Parampal Sidhu and also employer of King McLean. And Grover is also believed to have owned the trucking company whose truck was allegedly used in the theft. Amit Jalota is another suspect in this case. He's Archit Grover's cousin and also associate of another suspect, Arsalan Chaudhary. These are the 2 who are suspected to have looked after the stolen gold once it was moved out of the airport. While Jalota allegedly facilitated melting of the gold through another suspect, Ali Raza, and 2 more, Ahmed Chaudhary and Prasad Parmalingam. In alleged connivance with Arsalan Chaudhary, they assisted King McLean in crossing the border out of Canada to United States of America and helped him stay there in US for a long time before McLean was also arrested with 65 guns in Pennsylvania. So this is the relationship among all these suspects who were originally suspected to be involved in this heist.
And next, we talk about technologies initially developed for space missions that have the potential for everyday use. The Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Centre, better known as InSpace, is an independent body under the Department of Space. This body is responsible for regulating and promoting the private space industry in India, and it has now identified at least 166 technologies initially developed for various ISRO missions that can be shared with industries like automotive and construction for much wider use. So far, 79 non-exclusive memorandums of understanding have been signed with private companies for the transfer of these technologies. In this segment, the Indian Express's Anonna Dutt tells us more about these technologies and their significance in our day-to-day life. So, Anonna, traditionally, ISRO has obviously been focused on space exploration, but can you tell us how its technologies are now being applied to everyday life?
If we talk about, of course, ISRO is a very new space agency as compared to, say, NASA or the Russian Space Agency. And if you see all the technologies that have been developed by these space agencies, all of it comes back to be used in day-to-day lives. So, for example, if we look at just, some simple thing. So the cameras that were used on satellites by NASA, they are now the cameras that we use in our cell phones, the day-to-day cameras that we use. Air purifiers that we've developed now are a result of research that happened in NASA. Or even the reflective blankets that we see on, television when it's given to people who are stuck in some emergency. Those blankets also were designed for NASA missions. Similarly, in India as well, now we are seeing that the technologies that are being developed for various space missions are now being taken to day-to-day use. Now, this is a process that has just started. Of course, there was some technology transfer even before, but now that the space sector has opened up and there is a dedicated agency called InSpace, a lot of the technologies from ISRO missions, especially like sensors and coatings and paints that were developed for various missions, are now being transferred to other sectors. So, for example, you would see its use in automotive sector, or you would see it in construction, or, electricals. All of this is now happening at a rapid pace.
Right, and actually one of the most interesting insights from your piece was how the software used in Chandrayaan's landing is now being adapted for vehicle safety and to avoid collision. So could you break down this concept? Like, how can it be used in the automobile industry?
So if you see any mission, not just specifically Chandrayaan, but Chandrayaan more so because Chandrayaan was attempting something that has not happened before. Chandrayaan 3 did a soft landing on the surface of the moon. So for this soft landing, they had developed various sensors and algorithms which could use, data that had been so far collected by the orbiter of Chandrayaan 2. So there was already an existing image map of the moon, and now these sensors could help Chandrayaan 3 to navigate in a way to land perfectly at a spot that it required to. And this was done completely autonomously. So there was no commands being given per se from the Earth to these vehicles. It happened autonomously. And all of this can now be used. So Chandrayaan, like how it had to maneuver autonomously to land on the perfect space, these technologies can now be used to avoid collisions, etc. on the road for vehicles. So that is one application of the technology, of course. And there are various other sensors that ISRO has developed over the years. So for example, temperature sensors, pressure sensors, vibration systems that can manage the vibrations so that, the sensitive components do not get shaken up during a space mission, especially when a rocket is escaping the Earth's atmosphere. So all of these technologies can now be repurposed for different things. For example, a pressure sensor can be used to see when the airbags of a car need to come out. There, these sensors have a use.
And Anonna, you also spoke about the anti-corrosive paints that, ISRO uses for its rockets. Could you tell us how they differ from conventional paints and how they could be used by regular industries?
So ISRO works with a lot of materials because when we are sending a mission to space, they have to be in very extreme conditions like extreme heat, extreme cold, or various kinds of ions, etc., hitting the structures. So they do make a lot of anti-corrosive paints, anti-corrosive structures. So these are also some of the technologies that are now being transferred to the industry. So for example, like you mentioned, the anti-corrosive paint, the one that ISRO has developed is capable of handling extreme environments, including acid corrosion, which most coatings that we have today do not do it. So that is something which is interesting and can be used, for example, in construction to coat surfaces that are exposed to the environment for one. So slowly ISRO is now working on transferring these technologies.
Right. And you also speak of the 3D LiDAR camera. So could you tell us what that is and how that can be utilized?
Right. So it's a camera that uses lasers to sort of measure distances, depth, etc. So it can make like a heat map sort of thing where it can tell you the exact depth of various objects, and it can like make a spatial map of wherever you're using it. And this is, of course, used in, while navigating, these technologies are used by these space objects. But this can also have like a very big use in our day-to-day lives. For example, these can be used in detection and counting of the number of people. So, for example, if you're in a marketplace, in a very crowded place, and you want to know how many people are there, these cameras can be utilized for that. It can also be utilized, for example, in the, when you're sending parcels, etc. So instead of a person physically measuring the parcels and putting it according to the size, it can be done using these cameras. These cameras can have application in near-terrain flight for the helicopters as well. And it can also be used for body measurement. So, for example, getting your height, waist ratio, things like that, you can do that with these cameras as well.
And Anonna, we are talking about all these applications, but do we know how cost-effective these technologies would be for industries and also for space tech startups?
So, actually, two things. Like I mentioned, of course, these technologies are being given to sectors which are not essentially space sectors, but also now that the space sector has been liberalized in the country so that there are private space companies, a lot of these sensors are also being utilized by them in their own rockets and satellites as well. So that is one application. And, if we are talking about the automotive sensors, like I mentioned in cars, and especially now that we are looking at, autonomously driven cars as well, these sensors that are used right now in any of the cars we purchase are usually imported from other countries. If we are able to take these ISRO sensors and set up at scale manufacturing, I've been told that the cost of these sensors are likely to reduce many folds because the technology patent is being held by ISRO, so I'm sure they won't be charging a lot for the patents. Then, of course, we are anyway good at manufacturing. So if we are setting up cost-effective manufacturing in the country, that will also bring down the cost of these sensors for the automotive industry.
Right. And lastly, while these technologies seem to have a lot of benefits, what would you say are the biggest hurdles in bringing them into the mainstream?
So the challenges will, of course, be one, do we have the companies who have the capability of utilizing these technologies? So, of course, when ISRO is signing their deals with these companies, that is one thing that they are considering, whether they will be capable of utilizing these technologies or whether they will be capable of manufacturing these technologies. And second, of course, setting up of these manufacturing systems. So ISRO does very small scale manufacturing. So it would only manufacture the number of cameras or sensors it needs for its own missions. But when we're talking about the whole automotive industry, of course, the manufacturing would have to happen on scale. So setting up these manufacturing units would also be another challenge.
And in the end, we talk about the case against podcaster Ranveer Allahbadia. The Supreme Court yesterday granted Ranveer Bhatia, popularly known by Beer Biceps, interim protection from arrest in the FIRs registered against him for his alleged objectionable comments. The court, however, did condemn his language, asking, quote, "In this country, if this is not obscenity, what is that standard of obscenity?" Unquote. The apex court added that no one has the license to speak whatever they want against the norms of society in the name of freedom of speech. The controversy erupted when Allahbadia, a guest judge on comedian Samay Raina's show India's Got Latent, made an inappropriate joke regarding parents, which led to multiple FIRs against him and others associated with the show, including Samay Raina, Ashish Chanchlani, Jaspreet Singh, and Apurva Mukhija. After the widespread outrage, a summon was issued by the Maharashtra Cyber Cell directing Allahbadia to appear before the agency on the 24th of February. Meanwhile, the National Commission for Women also summoned the YouTubers linked to the case to appear at its Delhi office, but they failed to appear, citing prior international commitments and personal security reasons. However, Ranveer Allahbadia informed the agencies that he had been receiving death threats as well as harassment and requested the NCW for a new hearing date, as did other YouTubers linked with the case. Meanwhile, Ranveer Allahbadia and Samay Raina issued public apologies for their remarks on social media. Raina also announced that he has removed all the episodes of the YouTube show and will cooperate with the agencies throughout the investigation. Yesterday, while hearing Allahbadia's plea, the SC bench directed Allahbadia to deposit his passport at the Thane police station, saying he shall not leave India without the court's prior nod. Additionally, the court also directed that no new FIR shall be registered against Allahbadia on the basis of the show and that he shall be at liberty to approach the local police in Maharashtra and Assam for protection of life and liberty in the event of any threat. It also asked Allahbadia to desist from airing such shows till further orders. Hearing another matter a short while later, the bench referred to the Allahbadia case and asked Additional Solicitor General Aishwarya Bhatti whether the government intended to do something to regulate such shows. The court said that it would like to hear from the government on this at the next date of hearing. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank Bhargava and me, Ichha Sharma. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.